Hello and welcome back to the Google Analytics course. In this next section, we are going to talk about actually installing the Google Analytics code on your website, which is going to be really important if you are wanting to track. It's basically the first step that we'll need to do. Many of you probably already figured out how to do this if you're taking this course, so if so, you can probably skip this video. But we're going to talk about a few different ways to do it and hopefully fill in some of the gaps if there are any in your knowledge and experience of installing the code. So the first thing that you have to have is you have to have a Google account. So here I have a Google account that I am logged into up here. So what we're going to do then is we're going to go to google.com/analytics. Okay, if you don't have an official business email through like the G Suite, you can still use just a Gmail account. You can set up a free Gmail. If I open that, it'll open my email because I'm logged in. But if you, we'll do a new window here, and if you just go to gmail.com, it'll ask you, and you can create an account right here. I'm not going to walk through that process. Most of you probably have set up an email before. It's pretty self-explanatory. So we're not going to go through this whole process. So before we get started, this assumes that you have a Google account, either a Google Apps for Work, G Suite account, or even just a regular Gmail account. Either one of those will work. So then what we're going to do is we are going to, let me go back to this tab, go to google.com/analytics, and we are going to sign in to analytics. So we're going to do that right here. Okay, so I already have a bunch of accounts, so I'm going to switch though to a new account that's never logged in before, and it will look something like this. It'll say, okay, start analyzing your site's traffic in 3 steps. So sign up for analytics, add tracking code, and learn about your audience. That's basically what it wants you to do. So what we're going to go ahead and do is, if you're seeing this screen, go ahead and hit sign up. Okay, and so it says, okay, we are creating you a new Google Analytics account. So what would you like to track? Would you like to track a website or a mobile app? For 99% of us, we're going to be using a website. If you're building a mobile app, it's a little beyond the scope of this Google Analytics course, so we're going to focus on the website. So let's call this, I'm going to call mine example account. For you, it would be the name of your account, so probably the name of your website or the name of the company. So then we're going to say, okay, what is the website name? So in this case, my new website. So let's just call it example website. And then it's going to say, okay, what is the URL? So in this case, I'm actually going to use a real URL to show you how this works. And so I have this old WordPress installed that I don't use, but it's called proposals.analytive.com. So we are just going to drop that. Oops, let's go back to the right tab. We're going to drop that right here, and we're going to get rid of that HTTP at the beginning. Okay, so then it'll say, okay, what industry do you want? So basically, let me just clarify. On this one, you have to put your website's URL. This is just the root URL, the base URL. So whenever you go to yourwebsite.com, you put that in here. So select an industry. In ours, let's just say it is, computers and electronics. And then your reporting time zone. Which time zone do you want the events and all the data logged in? It's important to get this right. We are going to do Mountain Time because that's where we are based. And it says, okay, do you want to share your data? So do you want to share it with other Google products and services? This will allow you to link products. I recommend keeping that. Benchmarking. It basically takes your data and Google aggregates it to say, how do you compare against other people in your industry? It doesn't matter on that one. Technical support, if you ever want to share your data with folks, if you ever have support questions, you can call them. I would check that. And account specialists. These are people who will sometimes call you and say, hey, you should use AdWords or you should do whatever. I recommend that as well. So generally, you can just leave all of these clicked and you will be just fine. So right now, it's a brand new account, so we're using 0 of 100 accounts. But we're going to go ahead and say get tracking ID. So let's go ahead and do that. It's going to give us a terms of service that's loading here. And we're going to click I accept. And it's going to say, okay. So now we've created our very first Google Analytics account under this email address. So let me show you how we would do that as an example if you already have permissions on a Google Analytics account. So in this case, I have a bunch of them that I work with, and so I'm going to go over here to the admin tab. So again, if you're new, completely new, you can skip this part, but I'm going to show you if you are just setting up a new account. So all you do is you go to account and you just create a new one. and it'll take you to basically this same page, and you can go through that whole process again. I won't show you how to do that right now, but that would be the key difference. Okay, so we're back to where we were. We have our example website ready to go. So it says, okay, find your basic tracking code. So the first thing we need to do is we need to install this piece of code right here. And so this is the unique tracking ID for the website. So anywhere that has this piece of Google Analytics tracking code installed, whenever we load that page, it'll register under this account. So it says, okay, it's your third party. If you're using a hosting provider, you follow their instructions. Okay, got it. There's a few different ways to do this. One is to use a plugin, and I'm going to show you how to do that. One is to actually copy this piece of code right here and embed it on your site. And then there's some more advanced ones, PHP implementation. Generally, I've never used this one, or dynamic content. I've never used that one either. There's really generally not a need to. The one exception that I do use from time to time is a Google Tag Manager. But in this video, we won't be talking about the Google Tag Manager, but I'm going to show you then how to use these two, just using the straight UA code and then copying and pasting that. So first thing is, so here's our basic website, and I'm going to go to the back end of it, and I'm sometimes pasting the code into the head, which is where it's required, can be really difficult, actually. If you don't have a developer or you don't have a theme that allows you to paste code into the head, it can be difficult. So I'm going to assume that you're using WordPress. It would also work with Joomla or Drupal. You're going to use different plugins, but it's going to be very similar. So what I've done is I'm in a WordPress install. I'm going to go to the back end here to our plugins, and I'm going to scroll down. I've searched, just to be clear, I've already typed in Google Analytics and I've searched for it. Probably the most popular and most common one is this Google Analytics by Monster Insights. So we're going to go ahead and install that now. It's going to take just a second. Okay, installed, and then we're going to activate it. It's going to refresh the page. And now we have Monster Insights installed. So let's go ahead and go into our settings within WordPress. So what we're doing effectively is this plugin is just a container that we will then use to sync up our code. So there's a couple different ways to do it within this plugin, Monster Insights. And again, you don't have to use this plugin. We can just copy and paste the code. Technically, that's the easiest way, but many people using WordPress like to use this. So first of all, we can authenticate with our Google account. So if we click that, it's going to bring up all our accounts. We'll pick this one, which is the one we just created it under. It says, okay, Monster Insights would like to view your Google Analytics data. You obviously have to allow it to do that. And then it's going to give you this little piece of code right here. And it says switch to your application. So we're going to do that. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to drop it right here. And we're going to save the authentication code, and the page is going to refresh. And then you'll have to then select the profile. So in this case, we only have one profile. So we're going to select that. So what we're doing is saying, okay, which, how in this instance back here we had multiples. And now that we're back here, we just say, okay, which one do we want it to go with? So we've authenticated. We are in good shape. You can also just check this little box right here that will allow you to manually enter your Universal Analytics code, but it won't allow you to pull any data out. And so in this case, we don't have to do this, but if we were going to do it, we would just copy this number right here. So I'm going to copy that real quick. Copy. And we are going to put it right in there. But in this case, we don't want to do that because we've already authenticated it and we are good to go. We're also going to tell it to track outbound links and downloads. So this is if you have PDF downloads and things, we want to track those. Do we want to allow tracking of anonymous data and anonymized IPs? Generally, I leave that up to you guys. We can also set it to ignore users who are logged in here. This is a handy feature. If you're doing a bunch of work on your website and you use a plugin like Monster Insights, if you're logged in, it's going to ignore you. So that's really, really handy. So in this case, we can save our changes. Okay, wait for it. All right. Now let's go ahead and go to the site. So we're going to open this in a new incognito window, and I'm going to be able to show you the code. Okay, we got some pop-ups and things going on. So we're on the website. So let's go to View, and I'm going to go to Developer, and we're going to view the source. So now I'm actually viewing the HTML of this page, and so I'm going to type in UA. And it's going to show me that right here, this little thing right here, is actually the Google Analytics code that the plugin has created. And then if you see this number right here, that's the number for our account. And it matches, so I'm going to minimize this for a second. It matches this number, it matches this number right over here. So this number, which is, again, our Google Analytics number, for this unique account, and then the number right there match. So Google Analytics is now working on this page. Congratulations, you've installed Analytics for the first time using WordPress. So let me talk about the other way to install Analytics, just using the general code. So I'm going to minimize this window, get it out of here. So in this case, this is analytive.com. This is our main website. In the particular theme that we use, there's actually a way to insert header code. So I have my Google Analytics code. It's in Tag Manager. We won't talk about that now, but this allows me to insert any code into the head. So if this was my website, I can go back here and I can copy this. So we're gonna copy that. And then I can go back to here and I can paste that in there just like that. And then when I hit save, scroll down here at the bottom, and hit save, that's going to now load in the head of the website. So really, you want the code, and all the instructions will tell you this as well. Let me go back to our source over here, to be between the opening and closing head tags of the HTML, right? So there's a lot of stuff in here. So we're going to do a quick search though, and it'll show us kind of where it is. Or actually, well, line 7 here's the head, right? And so we scroll down, we scroll down, we scroll down, lots of stuff. Here's our Google Analytics code. And then here is the closing head. So all of this stuff right here is considered part of the HTML head. Our Google Analytics code needs to go in this section. So as long as it's in that section, and as long as it's in that section on every page, then you are in really good shape and you've installed Analytics on your site. Now, let's confirm. So the easiest way to do that is let's minimize this guy right here. And this is where, and we'll talk about reporting later, but so we've created it, we have our example account, so let's go to the reporting tab. Okay, and so we have basically no data, right, because it's a brand new account, 0 sessions, 0 visits. It defaults to yesterday, so today's actually November 7th, so the view defaults to yesterday, so I'm not going to see it even if I was on the site, but what we can do is we can go into real time. So real time allows you to see what's happening on your site in real time. So we're going to go to our overview, and we see about 5 minutes ago was my page view. So I'm going to leave this view up. In fact, I'm going to shrink it down. Actually, we'll leave it right there. And I'm going to go here, and I'm back on this page in a new window, so I'm going to shrink this, bring it over here. So watch what happens if I refresh this page, right? So we hit refresh. It's going to load. And there it is, right there. We just fired another page view on this website. So when I hit refresh on this page, what it did is it loads then and the Google Analytics code, which then sends the data to Analytics, and so we can see in real time. So this is me actually viewing my views in real time. So let's go to more pop-ups and stuff. So let's go to the archive pages just because we can, right? So that's going to load. Now wait for it. And there we have another page view, right? And so it's showing us literally what is happening on the site in real time. Super, super powerful. So if you do that, open in a new incognito window or a new private window if you're using Safari or Firefox, and then you can test your code this way to make sure it's actually firing. So there we go. We have now installed our Google Analytics code on our website.